Well, this is take two of Blizzard World. My first version got all distorted with audio, so that just shows how much I love you guys. Anyways, I put a lot of time this week into Blizzard World just because it's a foreign map to me among everyone else. So I went earlier in the week, I went through it and just really picked it apart, trying to figure out what I would like to do on the map. And then met with Wood on Thursday as he's been thinking through it from a take perspective, how he would like to play the map. And then likewise, this is the first week in the Overwatch League where they played Blizzard World, and first time I have ever seen it played in a professional setting, or at least competitive setting. There might have been minor tournaments, but I've never seen it played from any real team. So with that, I put all that information together to kind of build a strategy for us for this week's scrims. To start out, on this first point on attack, I was thinking dive because of how long it is, just to be able to cover that gap quickly and get into the fight. And also because it's such a long point, I thought Widow would be good, and I have since revised that way of thinking, just because if they push up early on you, Widow's not going to be able to do a lot, and if they hold back, usually they can play behind point to really deny her line of sight. So instead of running the soldier Widow composition, I want to put Rum back onto Sombra just to help with those short range engagements that we'll eventually have. So anyways, none of the teams did play soldier. I still think it's going to be pretty good on this map. And the reason why is because of all the mid-range engagements. So anyways, let's talk about execution as a team. We're going to run Winston D.va for our tanks. We're going to put Rum on to the Sombra. We'll put Temp onto the soldier. We'll put Spacey or Marcel onto the Mercy. And we'll put Zonix onto the typical Zenyatta. So anyways, what we're going to do is most people will just come through this area here. This should be pretty easy. One thing to notice, if people are holding early, if they're holding ahead of the statue, just engage because they're literally being dumb. Just hop behind the statue and take them out. If they're playing behind the statue, you have to be a little more methodical about it. If they're running really heavy anti-dive, you'll have to kind of poke and look for opportunities, allow your probably send your Sombra around back to either contest point or see if she can get on the squishies. But most teams will hold way back at point, and that's the most defense area because of how long this is. And a lot of dive, you might see anti-dive on the back. Anyways, so usually this front area will be for free. With that, you should be able to easily push through this, use Matrix to deny space, and then your soldier and your Mercy and your Zenyatta and your Sombra should all go up these stairs here. And basically, the soldier's going to want to hold this area up here. There's a lot of really good sightlines, as you see, mid-range. You want to watch this left side. There's a lot of times people might be hiding here, so check that first. Make sure you're good, check point, and you can really play out of this back area to deny any damage. Likewise, the Mercy should be pocketing him and can play out of this area and to boost him from safety. And if there's a flanker, then you guys can come back and disengage, and the Sombra will hack this pack. A lot of times tanks will probably dive up here to try and contest you, and this is very long as you go back. It's not a very small room at all, so, and you'll have a mini here to heal off of, and likewise we'll have a D.va up here, we'll have a Zenyatta up here, so you just all disengage together. The D.va taking the front line of the door, and we'll have a Winston down here still, right? And the Winston is waiting for an opportunity. He'll be playing back statue. He can jump up here to re-engage, or he can engage another target. If they're sending too many, then maybe if they're sending 4, he can potentially dive their back line over here. Maybe him and Sombra can link up to try and kill a Zenyatta or something like that. So Sombra is going to hack this pack, and from there she can go wherever she really wants. Hacking packs is good to do, but it's not mandatory. She can hack this mega pack here. This is really good. This is another option for soldier to relocate. As Mercy, might fly in with the tanks. If he's being pressured and uses biotic field and has to run, he can run down to this pack here. After we start winning the fight, you're going to probably see a rotation from us. Zenyatta might still stay here, but for soldier, I'd recommend moving. he can move either downstairs to this area here, where he can contest this area and play off the Mega. He can contest this area, or you can poke around here just to kind of put early pressure on them as they're coming in and disengage. Another good spot would be just running over this way. And if he's playing on this right room, there's no need to have Mercy. He should have a hacked pack here for him. But if he's playing up in this area, if he runs over to the left, this is another good line. It's just harder to get an angle on this door. It's not a huge problem though. This is just really hard area to contest the soldier. Probably my favorite area. And then you can send the Mercy back up here just to try and finish off the point. And then the tanks are gonna just want to, play safely on point, contest them as they come in. We're gonna have most of our firepower out from Zen and Soldier. The Zenyatta can stay up here, or he too can rotate around to the left side. Probably playing lower boxes with this Mega at his back to retreat to. So yeah, that's first point, and after we capture first point, we're gonna stay on the Mercy, and we're gonna go to, composition stays the same completely, lol. Anyways, you want to try and push up early and get as much map space as you can. This is especially important for the Soldier Mercy. I'd recommend going to this spot first. This is where they'd be spawning from, and you can try and deny early pressure from them. For the Soldier, this high ground is really the main spot you're going to be, especially early. So as you're here, the Mercy can be with you, and as the team's pushing around this way, she can easily just fly over to them and help out, healing and damage boosting, and fly back if she needs. And then once you get around to this bridge here, that's when you're probably going to drop down and play over by this pillar. And this is where Zenyatta should definitely be as well. It gives you a lot of cover. It's very long. The only ways for them to contest you are from this area, which is again very long. So with Soldier playing here with Zenyatta, it's going to be really hard for anyone to push you unless they do as a team. And then also you have this fallback option. This is great for Zenyatta for this Mega Pack. So that brings us to Sombra, who this is a very good pack to grab. Again, this point is not mandatory to have packs hacked, but it's good to grab them where you can. The center pack here is also really good. This is something that you can use. The tanks might be able to grab it really quick if they're in a pinch, and it denies it from any of their flankers who might be using it. The Mega Pack under in the arcade area is also really good to have. This guy here. This is something that Sombra can use to work off of. She can throw a translocator, run out, do things, come back, kind of like she did in the old days. So that's a really good spot for her. As you guys are pushing towards the end, that's where it gets a lot trickier, is this last engagement. So the Soldier will want to take high ground again, probably coming through the building, and then hold up in this area here. And as we're pushing, he can come back and take these angles again, this angle again, and then really to finish, his finishing spots will be either down here. This is the most defensible area with retreats into this area for a mini and such. Up here is also really good where you have cover. And then a more aggressive one is if you really think you're about to win it and just to want to finish it off, push up to here. You don't have cover, but it's in a very open area, and everyone was going to have to run through you eventually to try and get to the card. So for tanks, what their job's going to be is to push the cart. So for this point, tanks should be thinking about just being very passive and waiting for opportunities not to dive. If they're contesting high ground, contesting your Soldier, you want to respond to that to help out, just to deny enemy positioning. But otherwise, you want to respond as we have an advantage or push the cart. This area here is very safe for you. It's all kind of close quarters, and you can leap away if you need. You're also in range to peel for Zenyatta, who'll be back here. As you get around this corner, so where it gets a little trickier, you can play out of this room a little bit. You can play out of here a little bit, trying to just deny damage. But use your bubbles, use your matrix to try and just keep cart moving, and they'll have to contest it eventually. Just be mindful of things dropping on you. That's where you coordinate with Soldier and Zen to try and see if there's anything up there. And as the Soldier's pushing this high ground back here, you can take more of a high ground approach just to deny it from them. That's especially for D.va. D.va is really good to take high ground like that. As you get toward the end, in this area is where you want to really turn up the heat a little bit. You want to do more aggressive dives just to try and finish it out, because you just don't have as much cover. So that's why it's good if you can get early picks, or if you can use your EMP here with visor just to finish it off, have a really aggressive dive. For Zenyatta, he'll either come around and take high ground, or he can push right up here to these doors. You can also play out of these doors a little bit with this mini pack, just to try and finish off the point. And then Soldier, we already mentioned his positionings. Sombra should operate with the tanks to try and grab the dive. Another good thing to be is she can hide back here, and as they're trying to contest, can get a hack in to just deny a tank or someone with movement abilities, just to create more tension. So after you do that, Soldier can continue playing. You want to kind of push this while you can, and especially if he has visor, but regardless, after you 1 point, you can play 1 life with Soldier still. A great spot for him is up on this high ground. You can rocket jump up this way and jump. Well, it's the first time I've ever missed that, because I'm on TV. Rocket jump and then jump up here, and this is a pretty easy rocket jump. You don't even need to jump at all. You can just literally shoot at your feet while running and get up. So it's pretty easy to get this one. You're up here, Mercy should fly with you, and then you can kind of hold down this area. You're kind of act as a rotary to deny this spot, and they might dive you. If they dive you, just jump down. You don't want to hard hold this. You just want to kind of make space for your tanks to get around this corner, and you can potentially jump. Oh my gosh. Pretend I jumped across to this plank area. I'm here now after making my glorious jump. And you can play off of this spot here. You can peek out this side, deny this space here and up here. And your tank should help you take this high ground when they can as well. If they're on this high ground especially, tank should be denying this quickly. So Soldier on this area is still good, and you can potentially finish off with Soldier on this point. It's just towards the end, I think overall Tracer is a little bit better. So after you die, unless you're on visor still, then you swap to Tracer. You come back, and Tracer's really good because there's just so many hallways to travel. Just a lot of flank routes, especially you can go around right. There's a lot of flank routes through here, just a bunch of pillars and cover and a bunch of options. So we'll be running Sombra through this as well still. So Sombra through the entire map. And Sombra's great here because of all the packs. For one, this pack here is amazing. This is pretty much just Rust to use unless they're pushing hard, or if they have like a Death Volley comp, oddly enough, they might use that pack. So you can kind of deny that. This pack is here is good for both teams, so your tanks can jump to that. This pack is really good for their defense, and this is a spot where a lot of defenses were setting up during the Overwatch League. So it's a very defensible area. It's hard to get D.va bombs in here. So if you can deny them this 250 health every, 6 seconds or whatever it is, that's a good thing. And then there's also a mini pack here, but those 3 megas are really what you want to grab. And then likewise, Sombra can help with flanks to capture this area if they're setting up here. EMPs are great, especially if you're on Tracer. You'll need to take really passive approaches because this is such a long sight line to try and get from this area to here. So tanks need to be really passive and wait for DPS to try and open things up for them to be able to dive in. So EMPs are great. Pulse bombs on targets, on tanks even, just to if you get a stick on a tank, just brings the dive. Let's try and finish off that tank, that sort of thing. Zenyatta will still be played here as well, and same as kind of Soldier. He can play back by these doors and just take these longer line of sights. As you're first initially pushing, he might even take this room. It's a little bit safer here. You have to be mindful of flankers, but playing this low ground is just fine. Playing out of these rooms and just taking these locations right next to cover where he's a little bit safer. And after we'll play Mercy as long as we have the Soldier, and then when Soldier swaps to Tracer, you're gonna at your nearest opportunity swap to Lucio, unless you're like 60% Valk. Then you can keep playing the Mercy, and we'll try and, because Valk has a potential opportunity to close out this straight. You can push in with a Valk and sustain your tanks and all that. So if we're close to Valk, we can stay on that. Otherwise, Lucio is better just to help your tank speed in easier on this long area, and as well, there's potential kills over here. Like if they're pushing for this, you can potentially get some picks. So Lucio's good for the end, and once you get to this area, if you're still on Soldier, Soldier's really good at just holding down from the back angles. You can push over here, hold down this spot. You're probably going to be on Tracer, and in that case, the Tracer and the Sombra are great at holding here. Tanks can finish off just by playing these doors together. Zenyatta can take a far back approach, and Lucio does not need to support him. Neither does Mercy. Mercy can be kind of up with the tanks, actually kind of playing back in this spot where she's trying to heal the tanks and pocket the Soldier as she can. And then she can peel for the Zen if she needs to. As for Lucio, he can play in nice and close with the tanks, and that way he's in a position where he can speed them out to disengage and resustain themselves, come back in. And Zenyatta should not be contested at this point. They're going to be so focused on point, Zenyatta's going to be pretty much for free. And if they do put resources into killing him, we will have soldiers semi back there to help him out, but mostly that's going to put them in a bad spot on the front line anyways. So, that is attack. Let's go into defense. The Houston Outlaws were the only team to run the Widowmaker on defense, and I like the Widowmaker on defense as well. So Rum's going to be our Linkser here. Widow's really good to start from here. You have this really open line. Just to note, the center box gives you a little bit of height, so you do gain a little bit more line of sight if you go up here. After you take a couple shots there, you might rotate down to these boxes. You have another line of sight. You can have an opening towards the statue as well. Our tanks should be playing up on this high ground. This is a great spot for them to start because they don't have to show themselves. They can just play tight to this wall, and then they'll operate with the Tracer and the Widow to kind of determine when to dive. Mostly the Widowmaker, because she's going to have the most eyes as they're pushing in. If they're going for up here, both tanks can dive in and contest that. In fact, they should. The tanks want to try and maintain space, so we don't want to dive as they're coming through here. We want to dive them early, so on the blue roof, or as they're coming past statue in this area here. Tracer wise, she wants to be kind of holding. I think this is a really good spot for her to start. She's a roamer, so she can really go where she wants, but from this spot, as we dive statue, she's in a spot where she can help out. If we dive the blue roof, she can run up the stairs and contest right at their backs as they're trying to retreat, or she can come around and rotate here, or she can come around this side and come directly behind them. So she's got a lot of options on how she can help there. As well as if she's in this position, if they dive Zenyatta, who we'll have back here, she can peel for him. So Zenyatta, this is a great spot for him to start, just because he can get orbs onto tanks here. If the Widow's here, he can heal, and then the Tracer's right in his way, so he can see everything from where they're located, and this is just a really good line for him to put orb volleys out as they're pushing statue. If they're on the roof, he can get damage here. He can also potentially rotate up onto this area, where he can even get a better line on the roof, or over here where the Widow starts to get orb volleys downrange. But his default spot should be off to this left side. And as for retreat, he can retreat back this way, he can retreat back around here, or back to this mini pack here. So he's got retreat options, but for the most part, he's not going to have a ton of peel. He's kind of off by himself until they start closing in. Then we can have peel for him with D.va. But in the early engages, he's kind of off by himself with maybe a little bit of peel from Mercy or Tracer to come back and help him out. So that's first point defense. As they cap that, Widow should be swapping to Sombra. And we're going to keep the Mercy, even though it's a Sombra Tracer comp, and we usually play Lucio with that. It's because we're going to be using Mercy third point. We don't want to give too much ult charge just for a mid-point swap. So Mercy's still fine in that composition. We'll just play kind of a more aggressive dive here. So what we want to do is take high ground. These stairs are really important. So you want to hold this as tanks, and from here you can kind of go wherever you might need once you have high ground. For the flankers, This left room is okay to be in. You don't want to spend too much time in there because it's so long, but I mean, Sombra can get in here pretty easy because of stealth, and Tracer has enough maneuverability. But for a building, like, it's extremely large and lots of sight lines, so you want to be kind of careful. But you can play in there. The best spot to be, though, is around the circle area. You should spend most of your time around those packs. Sombra should hack this, and you can play back around this right side, and you can go around them from here and take these flank routes, or you can, you know, take high ground with the tanks and play off of this area. So really the two DPS want to kind of swarm together with the tanks to make a real aggressive push. And you'll have a Mercy playing with the tanks in this position. You don't need to pocket DPS. I mean, you can if you have like a Tracer going for a pulse bomb on a tank or something like that. You might boost it, but for the most part, you just want to be bouncing around, mostly healing the tanks as they're playing really aggressive. And Zenyatta, you can help him out too. You can play back with the Zen. Zen should, from the start, you know, play back in this area as the tanks push up. He might be able to take a little bit of, you know, play off of the stairs a little bit more, but you have to be really careful. Playing back pretty far as Zenyatta is just fine. And you can, you know, peek this right side, and if the tanks are pushing in, maybe push up a little bit with them, and once you get advantage, you can play all aggro and go with them and try and win out the fight. But for start seeds, until we get those early picks, playing back is just fine, and using orb volleys and is good. This pack is also good to hack. If Zen's playing back here, you can play base on this pack, using kind of this as shelter. This is kind of dangerous, but you'd have the pack right there for him to kind of heal himself off of if needed. Yeah, so for other packs to hack, these two in here are pretty good, especially if we're going to be flanking in there. This helps your Tracer out if she wants to go in here, helps you out if you want to go in here. But definitely this middle pack is the one you want the most. Point 3, we're going to swap from Tracer to Soldier early. And you can do that as early, even before the cap. If you think it's very unlikely we're going to win the fight, you can just swap off and we can give it up. And if we can, I'd like us to try and set up here. This might be tough depending on how aggressive they are. If they're running a very dive comp, they might take this before we can get here. But a Zenyatta over in this area is good. He has a lot of cover. He can literally just hide in a corner here if he needs to kind of reset. Soldier's really good up in this area too, so you guys can kind of play together. Soldier can also push this area. So kind of by default, you want the whole team to be up here. And the tanks together are going to dive this corner. It's kind of your first corner you want to try and deny. And when that happens, Soldier can jump over here and help deny it. Sombra can go in with them. Sombra should be kind of playing this low ground area. Flanks are we're kind of susceptible flanks in this position. Like a Tracer can come around here and try and pulse bomb. So someone trying to keep eyes on these bottom halls would be good, and that would be Sombra's job. But because we're all together, like if the Tracer doesn't do it at the right time, we're gonna have Soldier here. We're in pretty good position. Zenyatta can just play back off in this area, just turn around and hide and just deal with the Tracer. As the Soldier helps out, and Mercy can help pocket. So it's unlikely that a solo flanker will be able to kill us from back here, but it's something that can try and get in and try and break us apart. Heavy dives, they can dive from here up, so you have to be ready for that. Toy Biotic Field's really good. The Mercy pockets can be really nice, and then Tank Peel, so you can have just kind of this big brawl up in this area. So I'd say if we get dove here, it's best to try and, if they're doing a full team dive, just retreat back, just get out. And this is the main spot we want to be defending. If we don't get this spot during the fight, if they go right past us, then we did something wrong. We want to try and hold this corner, and once they're starting to make their way, if they have strength to dive us, we want to be playing back in this area, because this is such a long sight range, especially Soldier's really good here. We want to eventually have this set up, and with Sombra we'll have this pack for us to heal off of. Sombra should also be hacking this pack for the tanks to respond to, and she should deny this mega from the flankers as well. Once we lose a fight here, this is when Soldier should be swapping off to Tracer, because we're basically coming up to a one fight situation where we're going to be fighting in this crappy sucky area. So Tracer's really good to try and get in and work her way around, hit the back line or something like that, versus Soldier is just not going to be able to do as much. He can potentially flow around left side and play here, but it's just he's not going to be able to be as effective as a Tracer in this situation. Likewise, Mercy should swap to Lucio if she can. I'd say the only exception is if she's really, really close to Valk. I'm talking like you are pretty much guaranteed to get it once you got the doors just through healing, so like 80% plus. Otherwise, play Lucio. Like Valk can turn the fight for sure, but you don't want to go out here where you're going to be extremely susceptible to flankers, to a lot of damage from dive tanks or whatnot. Otherwise, you might as well play Lucio, who has more mobility and can kind of sustain and contest a little bit better. So that is what I have for Blizzard World for now. Things might change as we look forward. I think that they will change as we get a projectile player. I would like to use a projectile on this map more with the Genji attack and fair defense. You didn't see fair defense, but I have some cool ideas for that on point 1. So with that said, this is just for the scrim. If it goes really well, we'll probably bring it into the mix every now and then. But I just wanted to prepare everyone for Blizzard World, new map, and hopefully you guys learn a little something for this and are more comfortable going into this match. Alright, see y'all later.